Hey everybody, hey Mythical, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, but apparently not as good as you. You've had a lot of sleep. You're feeling good, which is great because you guys just finished a cool event yesterday.
Yeah, we were streaming live some speedrun close to where I live. That was pretty comfortable, and a lot of UD runners came to play with us. So that was cool. We got to play the Messenger and some Spelunky and some different games we haven't seen in a while. But we're back for UD7, and it's going to be nice four games today with four of our best players on stream.
That's right. We've got Ghost Death, Sablier, Le Remy, and Alnacour who are going to be competing today. I'm not sure which screen we're showing on. Yeah, we are indeed not Ziguigui and Vandal. But they've got that hard coded into the into the French feed, unfortunately. But we'll take a look at the players and their PBs across all these various games. Lovely, colorful bars, very filled in across most of the players. A bit of gray showing on Alnacour in the bottom left, but between the other three, it's actually going to be quite close. They're all within 10 points of each other across these four games. Taking a look at Ghost Death first, who is one of the best players overall, seventh on the leaderboard, is just outside 2,100 points total. And when you get a score like that, it means you don't really have any weak spots.
Yeah, that's very much the case for Ghost as seventh place overall, and the only games with no double-edged sword are VVV and Kirby's Dreamland. Except for that, it's pretty much all the way golden, except maybe for Wrack and with a PB at 14:12, third place overall, and race time at 20:40 probably shows that the Ghost Death had put recently a lot of work into Wrack, and maybe it's going to show today because it's one of the games that's going to matter the most when we play the four games that we are going to do today. Just next to them at the 8th place overall is Le Remy, with pretty much the same player card, except maybe for the Messenger and Lawnmower a little bit more empty.
Yeah, that's those are Rack and Lawnmower are super tough games to get a consistent race time. This Kirby race time, though, this is something that I think we're going to see an improvement today for sure. 15 minutes is quite a big difference compared to 12 and a half. Getting 12 and a half in a race with Kirby, I think, is actually pretty difficult. That's a pretty tall ask. But if your PB is a 12:35, I could certainly expect Remy to get a 13. Probably, I would wager quite a lot that they're under 13:30 here today. So that's going to be a really big race improvement, I'm sure, which is going to jump them up from 12th overall to who knows. 12th is already pretty darn good in race time. Sablé also quite good in race times due to just coming out to so many different events. You can see a lot of their PBs here have come from races. Minit, just a little bit off in Turf Masters. Wrack, considering we're playing both Minit and Wrack today, Sablé has got a pretty good shot at finally getting one of these silver stars. They have 9 bronze stars, but have always just been a little short of getting into top 3. They're one of the best runners overall, 10th in grind, 6th in race. So we'll see if they can finally put it together here today.
Yeah, they've joined a lot of events and lots of races, and they're doing consistently very well. Being top 10 in UD7 is very tricky, considering we have so many very good runners. So does Alnacour shows here, being super great at Neo Turf Master, especially played a nice race yesterday live and got I think it was close to the race PB with a sub 14 minutes, and yeah, so very good minute as well. Kirby's Dreamland lacking just a little bit, being at 13:38, and Wrack at 22 minutes, just showing that they know the route and the overall strats, but did not yet put maybe the grind necessary to go sub 20 or even lower than that. The water card is sub 12, but it's very difficult to push down the time past 15 minutes.
Yeah, we've seen, kind of only Taker pushing the time to, around that 12-minute mark. I think he's the only one to even get below 13 minutes even, the leaderboard for Rack. Ghost Death at third, remember, has a 14-12. So in the meantime, Lilia has actually managed to get a 13-27. The only other player to get under 14 minutes. Very tough game to get that low. But I think it's a reasonable game to get around that 15, 16 minute mark, maybe something more like 17, 18 if you're a little less familiar with the genre. So On the Curse 22-minute time, I think definitely has some room for improvement. But something about Wrack has been, I don't know if it's been intimidating or keeping players away, or if they're just not familiar with the genre or what. But the 22-minute time here is actually 33rd on the leaderboard for the UD. So looking at it in that way, it's actually like a pretty decent time. It's one of the best leaderboard positions On the Core has across the 4 games we're playing today, one of which is going to be Minit. You're taking a look at it now. Wonderful top-down, stark, black and white adventure game with a fun sense of humor. And as a speedrun, it's all about those little optimizations.
It's all down to movement, pretty much. Having the best lines and then straighter lines in between 2 points, so you can, move as efficiently as possible. Plus that boss fight in the end that takes up a lot of the times you're going to spend playing and speedrunning Minit. 200 points is at 8 minutes, and the 100 points is 15:30, a time that everybody has constantly beaten, like in the past 2 months. It's been a while since we've seen over 10 minutes. Everybody is very, very good and efficient at speedrunning the game, and it feels like one of the games that counts the least in the overall, in the grand scheme of things in UD7. But do remember that dying once will cost you a lot of time, and I do mean that, like, a lot of time. So you want to be efficient and not die in the end. Plus having the best boss fight is pretty difficult, and it's going to make the difference between the 720, 715 times and the 750, 755 we see often on the players. So we have the player's PB on screen, and sadly it has the lead with a 714.
Tied also between Ghost Death and Lerami, right at 724, and On the Core just a little bit behind, 737. Minit probably going to be our closest race, actually, of the bunch. We're looking at some of the best Minit racers that we have in the UD. We'll also see a similar thing happening with our third game out there somewhere, but we're off here. The timer has counted down. We start with the sword. We are going to pick up the watering can, which is just to the right here, which is going to sit around doing not much. Well, no, it's actually used pretty quickly to save the guy in the desert, but then it will really come in handy right at the end of the run. Of course, the players using their ability to kill themselves and restart back at the house at any time to do some death warping, and now into the dark section. They do not have the flashlight here to light the way.
Yeah, so you have to know exactly the way through that maze with many, many snakes that are going to take your health away. Actually, losing health is one of the cues you can use, or you can count your steps, but nobody has had issues except Olnaker. Olnaker resetting the room here and trying to go back into the dark areas and actually having troubles. They're going for the break the pot and lose health strat. Here we go. They should be fine, but they lost about 25 seconds, and that's a lot.
It sure is. This dark room is one of the major challenges, along with some of the stuff towards the end of the game. Although I would say the greatest challenge is trying to get really good at all the small optimizations scattered throughout the entire run. But it's hard to pin those down as any one thing. Like, you can point to this dark room and say this is a really big chance to lose time. So On the Core is a little bit late to the Oasis, picking up the glove that will let you throw and catch your sword. The other players have all done that, as well as saving the man in the desert, who opens the way to the gardening glove, which is going to let you chop down some trees. This is going to let us get to a new part of the island. But before we can get there, we have to take care of some crabs.
Yeah, so the quest to kill the 5 crabs that, are so angry. They're pushing away the customers for the bar here. So we have to kill all of them, and then we'll be awarded with a free coffee. A small price, but it's a fair one because it will allow Minit. Is the actual character called Minit?
I don't know. When you said it, I was like, oh.
Yeah. Well, our character, let's call them Minit, to actually push crates because you got so pumped with caffeine. It's going to allow you to get more energetic and move exactly at the same pace, though. It's not actually letting you go faster or anything. It's just allowing you to push crates, which will be necessary very soon because we'll onto the hotel. The quest here is to gather as many people as possible to come and live there. So the actual manager will open the swimming pool on the rooftop, and then we'll be able to get the sleepers. But first we have to correct the leave gang here and actually put back the reason the guy that was hidden behind the trees there. Their movement is completely random, and it is considered one of the most the trickiest place in the run.
Yeah, that was not quite the way you want that to go. Sablé having about 26 seconds leaving this screen after pushing this guy to where his credit card is. He's dropped it, and he'll play this sort of hot-cold game until you get there. Ghost Death has 25 on the timer there, so a little bit behind on this split. This is one of my favorite moments to take a look at that timer and see how players do, just because there are so many factors that can affect your time up to this point. And it looks like it's gone about the same for everyone in the sort of 25 to 27 second range in the top left. That's your timer that will kill you when it reaches 0 because of the cursed sword you pick up at the start of the game. So you're constantly having to try to accomplish as many tasks as you can within an individual minute. Usually they take a little bit less than that, so you just kill yourself and then go on to the next task. But it certainly does get in the way, and it does actually start to become a factor once we reach the factory and start to do some of the much longer sequences.
So Sablé picked up the flippers at 3:46. That's a very, very good time, and they're in the lead by quite a bit. Just next to them is Ghost Death, and that's going to be about 12 seconds later. So it's pretty hard to be so much faster just at the start of the game. But onto the factory, the quest here is to completely break the sword factory, because it's cursing everybody in the island, and it's terrible. So it's time to put an end and that dreaded sword factory, and do not reset the room just before the machine is broken. That would be terrible, but Sablé does wait enough, so that's the handle part of things is down, and onto the blades. Oh no, that was the blade. So the handle of the swords are made on the other part of the factory here, and just this is the more relaxed time. You have enough time to do everything you need. The next life though is going to be very tight.
Yeah, they really does get pushed to the limits in the speedrun on the core now, doing some box pushing. One of the best box pushing sections here we saw from them. Almost all the other players struggled a little bit with the optimal pushing. Of course, if you push it too far, you can actually get the boxes, if they're flush against each other and against the wall, you can't push them both at the same time and you're forced to reset. That's another opportunity to lose a whole bunch of time that you really want to avoid. Everyone's done a good job so far. Sablé has jammed their sword into the gear that is manufacturing some of these sword parts, and has lost it. It's on fire now, and it's just sitting in there. We need to go with our watering can and get all the way back there and put it out. And it does take a long time to get to that gear and put your sword in there. That one's pretty close, but this one is just as close. You have a little bit less to do because you don't need to break the generator to turn off the lasers, but you're trying to get all the way back up to the boss and triggering the start of the boss fight, which has a cutscene, and you need that to finish playing before your timer ticks down. Otherwise, it's going to be a big setback. Picking up the sword at 16 is pretty good. I don't think we're going to have to worry about that.
Yeah, the 15 is enough. And so we got a little bit on the doorway, just going down the basement here, and we still had time, so that's pretty good. First phase of the boss, you have 8 swords to destroy. We saw them blinking shortly there, and dying once, they'll reset everything, and I got scared a little bit, but they're good. And on to the second phase here, so the furthest sword is going to light up and going to throw tiny swords, but swords that, it's weird, but you can destroy them, and so he does a great job at that so far.
Takes one hit and is kind of stuck in an awkward diagonal here that's pretty common, that you can't get close enough to the sword because of the angles that the swords are coming out. That last one was pretty good, very favorable for Sablé, who's moved on to the final phase here. One hit is all you need before waiting for the swords to do their circular pattern here, throwing the sword a little bit too early. But you want to position yourself at the bottom, and you want to be attacking or throwing your sword to defeat the swords that are coming your way from in front. And you're probably not going to get attacked from behind. You can see there's a lot of swords all over the place right now. But getting the final hit, a very, very good boss fight from Sablé. I did not keep an eye on the timer, so we're going to have to wait to see what that final in-game time is, but it's going to be a good one.
It's a 7:16, I think, so 2 seconds off PB. That was very, very good, and everybody else on screen here is past that already. Loremi is looking at a 7:45, but the timer is ticking down and they're going to die just before the final hit. Oh no, that's going to cost them a little bit, but not much. Sablé, finishing with a 7:16, 13 lives, 13 runs to beat the game. That's as low as you can go.
Yeah, 15 is pretty common, so getting 2 less than that is indication of really efficient play. From Sablé. We've got boss kills here from Ghost Death and Loremi, who I think are around 7:45-ish. We'll see. These times are about to pop up in a moment. 7:34 and 7:34, so extremely close between those two. Very cool to see. I think their PBs are also tied, right? Ghost Death. Yeah, so that's just the way that goes.
At 7:24, exactly 10 seconds behind PB for both. That's pretty funny. Onlooker lost a lot of time at the start, so it's not surprising to see the timer ticks up past 8 minutes, but that's it for them. So good runs overall, but Sablé is going to be very happy being about 20 seconds faster than Ghost Death and Loremi. Is not easy at all on Minit.
Yeah, this is a lot of seconds for a game like Minit, and it's against some of the stiffest competition in the UD. Indeed, faster than Devil Tifa, faster than KTH, Kontos, Lilia. One of the best times, I think, probably, unless someone's been sitting on a time and just hasn't submitted it yet. Very likely Sablé is going to finish in first after Minit. They got to feel good about that one. Great start, but 3 more games left to play.
So Sablé, Ghost Death, Loremi, Kontos are some of the players that might join us on the Last Chance tournament happening next week. So on Thursday, we're going to play all 10 games in a row for Stifler, Onlooker, Kirby, and Fireman, giving them an opportunity to qualify for the grand finals, and everybody else is going to join us on Saturday, except for Devil Tifa, KTH, Taker, Lilia, Mollyman, and I think I'm missing one.
You already qualified. I'm not ready this time. I happened to know last time.
Oh, it was
that it was Lilia, but you said Lilia this time, and now I don't know.
I'm lost. Sorry.
I'm gonna find it. First chance tournament.
Oh, it's Jean.
Leaderboard. It was Jean. Absolutely, finishing in 4th with 2,027 points.
So, 4th place for Ghost Death, Loremi, and KTH, all at 205, and Devil Tifa and Andy Shepard at 208, and Sablé in 1st place alone at 209 points. That's very difficult, actually. Very few players have been in the game in less than 7 minutes and 20 seconds. The current time puts them actually faster than Devil Tifa's PB, or Stifler's PB, or Mollyman's PB, actually. So 7:16 is a very, very, very good time, having just as a PB, but being able to put that there in a race is actually impressive.
Yeah, this was the only time in the first chance tournament faster than this was Sablé's own 7:14, which was their PB. So it's being able to almost recreate that just 2 seconds behind. Very incredible showing. Andy Shepard submitted a little bit late here and snuck into not 3rd, but tied with Devil Tifa for 2nd. pushing out Ghost Death from the top 3, currently sitting in 4th. A 3-way tie for 4th, a tie for 7th. We've only got 4 out of 8 numbers listed on the leaderboard just because there have been so many ties.
That shows probably that Minit is not the game that's going to decide it for everyone, but just being able to finish a race up there is very important morally for the players, because it is very, very tense. Like, any game that has been featured in the UD has over 100 players in the speedrun.com page, so being up there is actually very, very difficult. It's where some of the most disputed games and titles, and just, you know, in a race, being up there is nice. But next up is Kirby, and Kirby is not an easy game because first executing on it can be pretty tricky, plus you have a fair bit of RNG in the boss fights, so mixing all that together makes it for maybe one of the most frustrating games in UD7, and some players feel like their PBs all run are a little bit too heavily influenced by DDD or Krakow's behavior.
Yeah, that is, if you're on the PB grind or goodness help you, the world record grind, it can absolutely start to wear on you a little bit when it's out of your control. But for a race, especially as part of a 10-game series, it really isn't going to be the defining factor. Your ability to play this game as well as all the other games, I think, is going to shine through against that RNG. And it also means that it's difficult to say who is more likely to win a race based off of your PB, right? You could have a case where someone is just as good as someone else, but hasn't grinded out the run with the good RNG. So it's always hard to say who among these 4 players is going to come out on top. The PBs are very close. 12:24 for Ghost Death, 12:35 for Leremy, 12:37 for Sablier, and then a bit of a gap, about 1 minute, Alnacour at 13:38. We can see Ghost Death in the chat already praying for the good RNG.
Ghost Death, we've featured their runs on stream quite a bit, and probably had some of the worst DDDs, so I do understand having to pray, but overall, you cannot expect to save time on those bosses compared to your PB, right? Your PB has probably some of the better RNG, and in a race, just one run, you should get about average luck. So you are going to lose 15 seconds to your PB on Krakow alone, and you do have to expect that. You cannot consider it bad RNG, right? It can be infuriating, but it's a good reminder, you know, to be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to lose time. It's not too bad. Let's execute on whatever you can control as best as you can. And if you lose time on Krakow, you lose time on Krakow, right? It's not too bad. But losing, you know, having like 13 attacks in a row on DDD, not allowing you to repost, can be to attack back can be pretty bad. So 12:24 for Ghost Death, 12:35 for Leremy, 12:37 for Sablier, and 1 minute behind is Alnacour, but 13:38 can be improved just a little bit for them. I'm pretty sure pushing past 12:30 is very, very hard in a race.
Yeah, especially in a race. My PB is around Alnacour's time, actually, but I didn't sit down and learn all of the necessary specific things you need to do in order to minimize lag on these screens. This first screen is going to be very emblematic of that. You're going to see if someone is not taking care to suck up this enemy and kill this enemy and kill these enemies in a very particular way. They're going to leave too many sprites on screen, and it's going to start to lag the game pretty significantly, actually. The lag management, you know, is up there with RNG in terms of what you want to really optimize your speedrun. We've got like a pretty much dead sync on the right side of the screen, except there's that RNG.
I did not get the correct pattern on Poppy Bros Senior here, jumping above them and losing them. We can see exactly how much they lost because they were exactly then in sync with Leremy, but it's not going to be too bad anyway. We'll will damage boost a little bit on the way to Wispy Wood there. Onlooker taking a lot of damage, and we cannot see their HP, and yeah, that was a little bit too much. But in first place is Loremi, going towards the boss, just one enemy to take down, and here we go.
It's a setback for sure, but was fairly close to a checkpoint. Definitely, deaths can cost you a lot more in this game. Loremi getting bonked on the head by the falling apple is maybe going to have a revelation about the nature of gravity, but unfortunately is going to lose time on this boss fight because the apples come in sets of 3, so we're 1 short here, just waiting for a second set. Thankfully, the RNG is a little bit kind. The apple comes pretty quickly, only going to lose 2 seconds or so.
Yeah, having terrible patterns here and missing apple as well, so having to wait for an extra cycle cost them way more than it did for Loremi. Loremi onto Castle, Lolo's Castle here, sadly missing the first jump, using the mic, lagging the game, and having the animation to wait cost them a little bit of time, but onto the next room it is. It's a straight set of rooms, and that you mostly just have to walk through. Be careful to actually land on the star. You can perfectly land in between the wall and the star and actually die there, so be careful of that, but not too careful, obviously. The mini boss here is not too difficult, especially if you have nice patterns. The spawn exactly on top can be tricky to get, but no problem for either Loremi or Sablier, because this is right behind them now.
Looks like Sablier and Remy are both skipping the curry. It is an option. You can pick up a power-up that will, some hot curry that will have Kirby literally spitting fire, and that will help you damage the boss directly rather than waiting for the blocks that the boss has to spit back out. Looks like Ghost Death is not going to be doing that either, so Loremi is the first one in the boss fight going ahead and getting these hits. If you are very quickly and also lucky, you can get 1 hit, then go grab another box, and maybe even get a second hit, but it is really tight. Looks like Loremi is not going to be able to get any of those extra hits.
Sablier just be finishing right behind Loremi, exactly tied on the dance at the end of the level here. So Ghost Death has 2 hits remaining and Onlooker 3.
Not going to be able to get a double hit at the end here. Ghost Death going to finish off their boss fight. Onlooker going to get pretty aggressive here, but has the health rather to take the hit. It's going to be just trailing a little bit heading into the 3rd level. Loremi and Sablier already are off here. Loremi's got too many cannonballs on screen, lagging the game quite a bit. Going to cost them a little bit. Sablier is going to be quote-unquote swimming here. It's flying rather is quite a bit slower than just walking, so even though you get slowed down whenever you're in the water, jumping out of it lets you kind of jump at full speed, ends up being a little bit faster to do this this gigantic sort of butterfly stroke through the water.
Overall movement of Sablier way better than Loremi on that section, gaining a lot of ground and actually passing Loremi. Being stuck on that enemy though allows Loremi to pass them back and onto the final room here. Picking up the curry will lag the game, so Sablier does skip it, and we'll see the Loremi actually trailing behind just a little bit because of the lag, especially if they spit fire, that's going to be even worse. And onto Krakow's fight here. It's a weird boss that starts with a platform intro up until you pick up the mint.
Onlooker dies in the water. I didn't quite see. Oh, that might have been intentional, actually. It was right at the start there, and there's no reason to go down there. So I think Onlooker got banged up a little bit too much, opted for a quick death to refill health. We've seen that in a couple cases, particularly the last level where health is so important. But onto the Kebula fight here. Loremi and Sablier both up close and personal with the boss, and they have the health to take any hits. Very, very close between the two of them on the right side of the screen. We did have a pretty good race going on the left side of the screen as well, but that death has dropped Onlooker back. Ghost Death fighting this boss from sort of the middle of the screen. Can still take 1 extra hit, is not going to need it.
Starting Bubbly Clouds, probably the hardest level. Featuring those enemies that explode if you kill them, or become very angry if you try to swallow them. You have to be very careful around those. Onlooker is going to kill Kebula fast and swiftly, and Loremi and Sablier are still neck to neck. Sablier has the advantage here, but not by much. It's very important to remember to keep an eye on the health you have there, because it's very, very easy to take a few hits here and there on Bubbly Cloud and ending up dying on that very screen where Sablier is. It can be tricky to navigate around those enemies. And Kirby will often get stuck on corners and tiny platforms, and you have a lot of those, so being precise with your platforming is not easy at all here.
Yeah, Kirby is really floaty. The way he transitions in and out of flight takes a long time, and his movement gets kind of locked a little bit during those transitions. You do have some control, but not as much as you'd think. He really is harder to control than you'd think, and that section is one of the hardest to get through because of that. Onlukor's turn to go through this section now is going to just fly over an enemy, as Sablier is going to be finished with this sort of Krako-ish enemy that thankfully has no RNG, has the same pattern, will always do the one attack and then the enemy afterwards. Sablier in the lead is not quite going to get here fast enough to get past that enemy, so is going to have to take a hit there. I'm not sure how much health they are working with, but it's pretty expected that you can get through all the way to the end of the Krako fight without taking any damage, so it's going to be okay. Ghost Death, even though he had 4 health, is going to dig through and grab the potion here for an extra health, so is feeling a little bit intimidated, I guess. I don't know if that's just something they always do, so I'm not going to change that up now, but just a tiny little time loss, not really too big, but I was just wondering if maybe it's giving some insight into Ghost Death's sort of mental state. Maybe.
On to Krako's fight. Sablier is in first place here, and let's observe how they tackle that very, very random fight. I know a lot of players have had theories on how to manipulate the RNG, but it's very hard to predict what's going to happen. So having 2 enemies spawning in a row here, but Loremi had a better start, so it's very close between those two. It's better RNG on Loremi's side here, almost done with the fight. Sablier has to wait for 2 enemies to spawn, but it's going to be fairly quick if Krako's does comply, and here we go. So pretty decent. Loremi had a better RNG, and onto Mum DDD we are.
The final stage is mostly a boss rush. There's a little bit of stage accompanying each returning boss for a little bit. The door, you're closer to the door here in the bottom left, so this is generally first turning around to grab that masked enemy that attacks you from behind, falling on top of this weird little dancing Kirby thing that you need to touch, and then that will remove the enemy blocking the door. It's a very strange mechanic that I don't think I've seen in any other Kirby game. It needs to get down there. He's just, I don't know, Kirby kind of squishes around when he's moving. I don't think it actually changes his hitbox, but it certainly felt like it just there.
Yeah, I think they were trying to optimize the movement and not stopping the flight, because flying takes a lot of time. And sadly, it appears they lost a lot, but it was probably like a second and a half. But just losing time to silly things can be infuriating. You are trying to lose as little health as possible, because it's never going to replenish, except if you die. So you don't want to die. You don't want to lose health at all during that boss rush. So players play way safer around Lololo and Yalana than they did the first time. Loremi on 2 Krako fight. The refight here, and you want to pray for as good RNG as earlier, but Sablier and Loremi are neck to neck here. Sablier waits for the enemy to spawn, and thank God, Kirby is not like Yoshi, where Yoshi gobbles up the enemy after a certain time. You can wait with oh no, that's so bad. Sablier missing an enemy here, actually destroying it by headbutting the enemy, so losing a little bit of time. Is Sablier, meanwhile Loremi is almost done with the fight.
Lololo and Lalala pretty well for both Ghost Death and Onlukor. Both of them heading to Wispy Woods next, actually, so making it pretty difficult for us to follow to see who exactly is in the lead. You might be forgiven for thinking they're ahead of Loremi, who had just entered Wispy Woods, and Sablier, also making things difficult, is going to the Kebulary fight next. So we'll just have to wait and see after all of these bosses are defeated who is actually in the lead on the core. Is grabbing the apple from like directly below, which is a little bit risky to me. I feel like it probably doesn't make a difference whether you're a little bit to the side or not, but I just am so... Oh no, they flew! They got into the air accidentally, which means instead of swallowing, you're going to spit out the air that you've sucked in first, so that's going to destroy that one apple, but immediately gets a replacement to finish off the boss fight, only losing a second or two there.
Laramie does not do the flying optimization. When you kill a boss during the boss fight, you want to press up, so the explosion takes a little bit less time. It doesn't matter in the proper levels because you have the star that appears immediately anyway, but during the boss fight you want to press up as soon as the boss dies. It's going to save you overall about 2 seconds, so it matters quite a bit.
Yeah, 2 seconds is... you will have a lot of trouble finding 2 seconds once you start to push your Kirby time down below 13 minutes, closer to 12:30. 2 seconds can seem like an eternity. Kebula down now for Encore. Laramie dying very quickly at the start of the DDD fight to refill health. This is pretty common. If you end up taking too much damage throughout the stages, the DDD fight goes on for a long time, and if you run out of all of your health, you have to redo the entire fight from the start. So rather than risking having that really big problem, Laramie actually losing out on an opportunity for damage there, you kind of cut your losses, take one quick death, and give yourself a really good chance at finishing the fight first try. Or, well, first in quotes.
What is happening for Sablier? DDD not giving them any good attacks, so that means that Laramie is 4 health faster early in advance here. Sablier has to wait for some good attacks, and 3 Laramie has 4 health. Here on Sablier, and Sablier has to wait quite a bit. Ghostess is right behind them. I think Ghostess actually started a little bit late, so maybe we're looking at sub 13 time still.
I can't see Sablier's health, so I'm a little nervous. They've taken at least 3 hits in this fight so far, getting a little bit aggressive. Oh, they jumped at just the wrong time so that they were not able to get a star out of the hammer to spit back at DDD. Meanwhile, Laramie has finished at least 5 hits now ahead of Sablier, so combination of favorable RNG certainly, but also some better execution I think probably helped them out a lot. There's a lot you can do to speed this fight up. Staying as close to DDD as you can will reduce the amount of time he takes to walk towards you before he does his next action. This can add up pretty quickly, but it's also pretty risky because if he goes for the vacuum attack, it's very hard to get away if you're standing right next to him.
Still, I think Sablier lost a lot of time in that DDD's fight. Trying to play safe at the end, probably had only 1 or 2 HP remaining. That would not be surprising at all. But everybody is done, quite in sync. Laramie having a better time overall, but very nicely done. We'll see the times updated on screen, and Andy Shepard got actually a 12:30. That's a fantastic time to get in a race on Kirby.
Yep, 2 seconds ahead of Malia, 6 ahead of KTH. All of those times are fantastic. Kontos, actually, we haven't seen too much playing in tournaments and events, but this 12:45, along with their solid minute time, is going to be at least 5th place here. I think we're seeing, Sablier has added their time to the board. They dropped all the way down to 7th, being just a minute slower on Kirby than Andy Shepard. Tilgar has got a very solid 12:40, but their minute time left a little bit to be desired, so they're currently sitting in 8th, Alnakur in 9th. Devil Tifa, I do not expect Devil Tifa to stay at 10th, but Kirby's a game where some bad things can happen. A single death can cost you a lot of time, some bad RNG can add a lot of time. I'm worried for Devil Tifa.
Sadly, Devil Tifa just did not submit their time. I think their time is at 12:25, so they should jump up to 1st place or 2nd actually. So that, no worry. Here we go. So actually tied with Andy Shepard. 12:25 is more likely for them on Kirby, but Kirby sometimes you will drop a little seconds or minutes due to RNG or dying on at very, very costly deaths in the head of bubbly clouds, or you can lose a lot of time just due to being a little bit too aggressive on the bosses, or losing health here and there and just dying straight up without expecting it, more likely on the boss rush to lose a lot of time or Bubble Clouds, but you know, that has happened, and it's not the end of the world anyway. Sadly, dropping down to the 8th place, losing. I think they lost about 30 or 40 seconds on DDD alone, so that must feel, you know, a little bit bad. But next up is Out There Somewhere, and no RNG at all on Out There Somewhere. It's just all down to very, very tight execution. It's actually surprisingly difficult to be consistent at speedrunning that game.
Yeah, this is Out There Somewhere is the last game that I've sort of sat down and really tried to learn and drill down. And I've only just begun. I haven't even finished a run yet. I've learned like the first third, really. And the reason I stopped is because it was so difficult for me to get consistent at this game. The precision required for some of the out-of-bounds stuff almost feels like RNG, because you feel like you're doing the same thing, and it's just working sometimes, and it's just not working some other times, and it's just because you need to be just a little bit more precise in order to make it happen. There's some very difficult tricks and out of bounds and stuff that does save time, but is indeed very precise. So I think we've seen players trend towards being quite aggressive and going for a lot of these strats. And we've seen it's probably been about even, I think, in terms of going for the aggressive strats. And does it save more time than it would have if you had just gone? A lot of players, I think, end up basically coming out even. But we've seen some players who've lost a lot of time getting stuck on some of these tricks. So I'm still wondering if we're going to see players change their approach in this game this late into the season.
To be honest, I think that would be smart though, because we've seen so many players drop down a lot of time to the out of bounds and the overall tricks that we're going for. Who was it that lost? That was Taker, I think, recently, that went for the damage boost in the Grigory's Tower at the end and dropped down like all the way back multiple times and actually lost about 40 seconds to a single jump.
We can take a look at what the game really looks like in just a moment. It starts with a cute little cutscene that the players will mash through, and then it goes into a shoot 'em up section that seems bizarre compared to the rest of the game. But it's in there, and we tolerate its presence. The real meat of the game is this teleporting, platforming puzzle game that is a ton of fun with some pretty groovin' music that I've come to appreciate a little more having speedrun it. Sometimes repetitive music can grate on you a little bit, but I really start to get into a groove with this game. One of the things I like about it, but certainly the incredible precision required to do some of these tricks is the thing I really come for when I'm a viewer of this game.
Yeah, it's do keep an eye on all those jumps and all those teleports. As soon as a player drops down or misses a teleport, they're going to lose actually a lot, and it's not surprising. We see Sabli and Rorimi here practicing on that double 2 frames perfect jumps and teleport here, allowing you to save about 30 or 40 seconds. So it does matter, but it's very likely to see a player actually struggle for more than that, and Sabli gets it here. So you can, as soon as the screen goes all black with no platforms, that's when we consider it out of bound, being up there onto the actual rooms, and it saves a lot, but it's very, very tricky. Plus, if you want to optimize as a lot, you can go for some screen wraps. So pausing the game just as you transition between 2 screens may get you to actually teleport to the end of the screen. I think Super Lingard goes for that in grind, but it's totally not recommended during races.
Yeah, but I don't know, do you get punished for it aside from the time it takes the menu to open and close? I feel like you get to at least continue on, right?
Well, you do pause, so you're going to lose about 2 to 3 seconds to the menu and the pause and the you stopping,
and you skip one screen,
and it skips a screen, so it's going to save you about 7 seconds. So it's like, yeah, if you don't get it, you're just playing, and it's very very precise. You have to pause exactly on the correct frame or frames. So it's, you know, it's not worth going for. The world record is at 5:44, and Sablier is actually a minute behind that, so that's impressive. So is Loremi at 6:39, Ghost SPB is at 7:15, and Onlooker at 8:58. Good times overall. Sub 10 is not easy.
Yeah, this is it's you know, Ghost Onlooker, you know, appears to be like it's a whole minute behind, but they're 42nd on the leaderboard in a very competitive game. Sorry, the times we're looking at from the other players are 6th, 9th, and 14th on the Ultimate Decathlon leaderboard. So we're looking at literally some of the best players in these games. So don't count out Onlooker. They're actually quite good at this game. They're literally just stacked up against some of the best here. And this is a game where even the best can falter going for some of these ridiculous precise tricks. Sablier and Loremi were warming up on that first out of bounds, and you know, Sablier, it took them, you know, as we were just watching them practice, they failed I don't know, like 10 times or something before they finally got it. But then after that, they got it a couple times in a row. So they kind of, you get into that rhythm where it just clicks, and it's so hard to get to that point. And certainly you don't get to start the race from that point in that mode with that strat clicked. So you do have to play from the start of the game and hopefully find it again once you get there. It's not too far into the run, so we'll see it in just a little bit as we've just gotten started.
It's definitely one of the hardest games I know to just come not practiced into. Like you just have to remember exactly all those dialogues to skips, all those jumps, and before the transition happen, lots is happening just due to perfect memory and execution from the players. And if you are not practiced, it can be pretty difficult. Sablier and Ghost Des exactly in sync, entering at 20 seconds into the game here to the first out of bound, and Ghost Des getting it immediately. So is Sablier
as well. Wow, this is crazy. Are they going to go for the pause now? I mean, they both go for it. They're feeling it. And I think they got it. I can't tell. Sablier is cropping. I can only tell if they got it based off of how high they are on the screen as they move. Sablier did get it, is not going for the extra heart, which is, it's a risk. You need to drop down pretty far, actually. But this is a fantastic start for both these players.
Yeah, this is amazing. Loremi is still stuck here, 35 seconds into the trick. At some point you have to drop it, but it can cost so much. The time.
The second one first try as well.
Gets it, and Sablier, perfect start to that race. Ghost Des is going to drop down just a little bit too much and actually have to reset here. Sablier did not get the frame perfect jump to skip all that, but a nice recovery here. Is going to drop up. So that skips a lot, actually. If you are not landing on the top of that platform here, you have the big detour down to the caverns to go for. Sablier is already at the village here, 1 minute and 30 seconds into that turn. That's crazy.
This could be like a PB attempt now for Sablier. They didn't, you did point out they didn't get that sort of transition out of that second out of bounds sequence perfectly. They fell down a little bit, had to work their way back up. That's pretty common. It's actually very precise, getting your portal shot and jumping high enough so that you have enough time to get that shot off and not fall down. But recovered immediately, first try on both out of bound tricks. This is looking like it could probably be a PB for Sablier if they're able to close it out. The hardest stuff is kind of behind them. Not that it's free from here on out by any means, but currently enjoying quite a lead over everyone else. Loremi is stopping to grab an extra heart. No, sorry, that was the gun rather. It was does have 2 hearts compared to Sablier's 3 though. So Sablier didn't get the heart dropping down after the first out of bounds, but did grab the heart in the sort of lava section that Onlooker is grabbing right here.
Yeah, Ghost Des did not go for that, so they did caught up with Loremi, but Sablier is about 55 seconds ahead of everyone else. Ghost Des, Loremi, and Onlooker being super close together. So it's it's a nice lead, but it's not enough. You have to walk for the next 4 minutes to go perfectly, and the tower here is a tough section, and nobody is going anymore for the kill on that bear here. You know, everybody just skips it, and that was nicely recovered from Sablier, not going for the frame perfect jump on those green beams, and just is moving towards through that puzzle section. Very difficult if you don't know what you're doing, but no problem when you're a speedrunner. And nice tower, very, very nice, smoothly executed. Be careful here. If you die, the last checkpoint you did pick up was before the tower, so you have to be careful. But Sablier finally gets a checkpoint and he's moving onward. You want to skip that section if you that checkpoint if you are willing to save the frames, but it's not going to be done by Sablier. Dying here, dropping just a little bit of time, but it's not too much. Meanwhile, Ghost Death is on the tower with Loremi, and Olmaker is just behind them.
I'm trying to think of the last time we saw this game where a player had finished the tower before anyone else had reached it. Just a crazy, crazy run from Sablier, who is done with the first section. Talk to the little worm slug guard that will open the door to the next section. Making use of a pretty interesting part of the game where if you have 2 shots on screen active at once, you will teleport to the first one that collides and then to the second one that collides. So you can use this to shoot a shot somewhere dangerous, use another one to teleport yourself to safety as you wait out that first shot to travel and get you where you're trying to go. Just basically, it didn't go for that one skip like you mentioned, but otherwise, it's been pretty much flawless through this section. It's been a real treat to watch this run. Also getting on top of this block on the first cycle, that's not so easy to do. This has been such a great run.
So I just checked with Sablier PB. They don't use a live split for the game because it's so short, so they don't know it, but they're completely on PB pace, at least 5 to 6 seconds. So now it's just down to pure execution and having a good boss and a good Gregorius Tower coming up next. But the Blue Lake here is one of the hardest rooms for me, and nicely done, no problem whatsoever. Here you have a frame perfect jump, and here we go.
It doesn't look frame perfect when you're watching Sablier right now. They are just doing so well. Avoiding to hit that ghost is one of the few times where your portal shot will actually interact with an enemy and you will teleport right on top of it and take damage. We'll see their approach here. Oh, they are falling down and getting back to the checkpoint here. So unlikely to be a PB anymore. I think it's going to be pretty close, but still miles ahead of everyone else in this race.
Oh, that's exactly the room that caught up Taker last time. It's a tough jump above that projectile if you want to teleport to shoot at the same time, and sadly that cost them a lot. But next up here, once again, a green beam. You want to jump, but no, Sablier does not even go for that skip. He knows that it's too risky, and I like those kind of decisions. That's what we're saying at the start of the stream. You may want to, throttle down a little bit on your strats when you're speedrunning or racing out there somewhere, because everything can get you, but no problem on the Walker skip here.
I can't believe the number of first try skips here from Sablier. Just that one mistake we saw has been the only blemish on a fantastic run. Doing some really fun back and forth, having just enough time to touch the ground, ready to jump before the next teleport shot hits the wall, so you can jump higher and higher. Ghost Death here going for the first, the frame perfect jump on the green beam, also gets it first try. Sablier now into the boss fight. 3 shots one direction, 3 shots in the other. You need to jump a little bit or your shots will be too low. The boss is trying to attack, but it's getting interrupted with the teleport left and right. So that is basically a perfect boss fight. They just need to get the mashing down at the end of the game here. It's you need to dodge some shots a little bit. You want to mash as hard as you can, but not so hard that you forget to be defensive and keep your health up. We'll see how this goes here. Oh, the mashing is really good.
Yes.
Not taking much damage.
HP, and should be done soon. Nice. 656. That's for sure one of the best races we've ever seen. Sadly, dropping down there cost them about 15 seconds and cost them the PB. But that was very, very good.
Fantastic run by Sablier. Had the first place time in Minit and then dropped back quite a bit in Kirby. I won't be surprised if this puts them right back up into contention for top 3, maybe even the first place. I'm not sure. We'll have to take a look at the leaderboard when we get there. Remy is going to be the next one to reach the boss. He is mashing like crazy and also did not take much damage. That was a fantastic end to the game there on that final boss. 7:36 is going to be their final time. Ghost Death is getting close to 8 minutes here. They've definitely are capable of pretty good. They've got a 7:15 PB. So they got hung up mostly on the second out of bounds sequence. They were right there with Sablé after the first one. And then just, even if that second out of bounds is not quite as difficult as the first, it's still difficult, still very precise.
So Sablé's PBs was made yesterday, actually, so that's why they're so practiced on the game, I think, because this had some trouble onto the final shmup fight here. It has killed some players, so you do have to be a bit careful, but you should be fine. You should kill the boss before that lasers comes out.
Did take a bit of damage, and their mashing was not at the super highest level, but it really consists. Alnikur got all the way to the end of this room and then didn't quite get their jump input in time, unfortunately. And this one's going to be too low, I think. Yeah, so this is even more time lost. They also got hung up quite a bit on the skips we saw. First try from Sablé. I don't know what the room is called, but it's the 3 vertical or horizontal sections off to the left, and you fire one shot down a hallway and then jump up and fire another one. It's already gone, and it's foolish of me to even try to talk about it without a visual depiction, but it did not go so well for Onikar. They got hung up there for quite a bit, and their boss fight is getting away from them a little bit. They did take damage, but they are going to get that final hit, so they are going to be able to pick up the artifact here, and I don't think your health matters carrying over to the second section here, so they're going to be fine.
Yeah, your ship crashed down the planet, you just get the light orb and it's full on ready to go, no problem. And here we go. Mashing way slower than what we've seen from Ghost Death, Loremi, or Sablé. Olniker is going to have a harder fight here. Yeah, the laser is going to destroy the house.
Cannot get hit.
No! That was so close to the end. But it's tricky. Mashing fast is sadly something that's almost impossible to practice, and games that require fast mashing are kind of some of the harder times to save on any speedrun. It's a bit unfair, but it's not too long here, and Olniker finally killing the boss at exactly 10 minutes.
Yeah, that is not as fast as some of the times we saw earlier, not as fast as some of the times we're seeing on this leaderboard. Sablé's time has put them all the way in second, just 1 second slower than Devil Tifa. 11 points to make up in Wrack is going to be quite difficult, I think, but Sablé is in a really good position to at least finish top 3 now with that great run. Rounding out top 3 currently is Loremi. Unless Kantos is sitting on a pretty good time, maybe this leaderboard will change, but probably that's going to be our top 3. Aaliyah just 1 point outside of the top 3 at 4th place. ND Shepard over 600 points, averaging over 200 per game in 5th place. And when 5th place is averaging over 200 points per game, you've got some pretty stiff competition on the field.
Yeah, for sure. I think Kantos is not done yet. Kantos PB, let me check, but I think it's better than that, so I'm not sure what has happened to them. Yeah, Kantos PB is on par with Olniker's at 8:55. So, so when you're unpracticed, and sometimes you are going to drop a lot to the first out of bounds. Apparently, the Ultifang got mostly a perfect run, except for the first skip. So that's where they lost a little bit of time, according to them. But we did not get to see that. But still, 6:55 is some of the best race time on the game. The overall best race times the players have gone for are 6:29 by Devil Tifa and Super Lingard, 6:38 by Taker, 6:51 by KTH. So yeah, it's a very, very good time. Sablé's race time is currently 5th on the leaderboard.
Yeah, that is a fantastic job. Loremi in 3rd, finishing. This is almost a full second outside, or full minute rather, off their PB, in this game, despite it being like the third fastest run on the leaderboard for this this tournament. They did lose quite a bit of time on that first skip. They were, we were getting so excited about the first try success for Sablé and Ghost Death, and then we got to the second skip even, and then we look and Remy was still at the first one. So their run from that point must have been spot on to keep pace with everyone else. After that, still holding on to third place. Because of that, basically, if the rest of the run had gone about as well as that skip had gone, they would not be sitting in third right now. So really strong recovery, absolutely necessary skill if you want to finish in first or top 3 or qualify for grand finals. There's just so many strong players that this is a necessary skill to have.
Next up is Wrack. Wrack is a tough game to crack. The FPS aspect of it means that you have to be able to move efficiently in first person and be precise to kill the enemies that might get on your way. Plus, it's a difficult game to get into because the level design is so bland. It's hard to recognize anything from anything else, and overall the level warps on itself. When you unlock a section, the exit is really right next to it, so you have to go in full circles usually, and it can be tricky to get into. But once you've done that, when you've passed the first difficulties, it is a fun game to speedrun. It has a lot of tricks, lots of jumps, lots of tiny things to practice. Plus, you can one-shot some of the bosses, so that's obviously a plus.
Yeah, it's very satisfying. You can see there, even doing it during the cutscene that they're introduced. So that's a really just like a chef's kiss to the mouse. Mwah, love that. Just whatever, this big dramatic, here I am, I'm the big, you're like, nah, you're done. Moving on. When you said, like, the game's a little bland, like something twigged in my mind, and I was like, is Twin talking mess about Wrack? Hold on now. And then, because I've come to love this game so much as a speedrun, and then I remembered the first time I played it, I actually kind of didn't like it very much. Like, it really is quite bland. The guns kind of don't feel so good to shoot. It's not a game I would strongly recommend people go out and play. But speedrunning it became a lot of fun, and my opinion of the game improved quite a bit, which is kind of part of the point of the game, actually. There is like a whole skill system. You build combos and maintain them and get extra points, and it gives you a score at the end. You can pick up extra items that increase your score, and it feels useless and dumb when you play the game for the first time, probably, because at some point gamers stopped caring about scores. But when you try to play the game for score, a lot of things start to click about it, and it starts to become a lot of fun. And speedrunning is just a kind of a different score that you play for, I suppose. So it really does end up being a lot of fun. There's a lot of skips. The game is incredibly fast-paced, and just something about it is a lot of fun to speedrun, especially on the casual difficulty where not everything hurts so much, so you're not too worried about dying or detouring for extra health. You're kind of just focused on taking your lines as best you can, get your skips, get your boss kills. It really is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's I'm not that into first-person shooters as speedrun games, but Wrack was a ton of fun for me to learn and practice. I did not get such a good time that I can brag about, but it was still pretty fun to learn to do the skips, to practice on those tiny jumps on the spiders. And when you mix all that into the game, it becomes way more satisfying to play through compared just to trying to casually beat the game, because it's sometimes it's a wreck, sometimes it's pretty fun. But the speedrun is very tricky. It was not that speedrun before UD7 started, and the world record was at about 15 minutes. Now it has improved quite a bit, and we are hoping for some sub 15 minute times here.
Yeah, we've seen a number of them throughout the UD. On the leaderboard, there's a couple players at least who have all achieved times greater than that. Taker has absolutely smashed that time during the qualifying tournament, even got a time faster than I think anyone else in the world had ever achieved in an 11:53. It was absolutely disgusting, and we're probably not going to see something like that from these players today, but I would not be surprised if we did see a 15-minute time from these players. Ghost Death is probably the most likely player to do so. Is currently third on the UD leaderboard with a 14-12 overall. And I haven't got a good sense of how this run has gone for them because their stream was just catching up. But it looks like they are going to be able to maintain their combo, killing 4 enemies to get your combo to the first level, charging up and then holding the charge while you pick up the shotgun, which switches weapons for you so that you can continue killing things and build your combo again, which normally you can't once you start charging up your weapon. That lets you get a level 3 combo ready for when this boss first spawns. Sablé also has done the same. Bam, there it goes.
I love it. It's not easy to do because you have to abuse the fact that you pick up the shotgun for the first time to be able to keep your combo going there. But keeping the combo while switching weapon is a weird mechanic in the game, and you cannot do it going from the sword to anything else, but you have some switches that are allowed, but thank God we don't have to mess about that too much. We're going to charge a full charge here, and no, Remy misses, and sadly is going to have to wait just a little bit, but here we go.
Yeah, there's some finesse that I don't fully understand in getting your character to like slide a little closer during the cutscene, because your damage falls off with the shotgun finishing attack there. So you do need to get as close as you can to the boss to actually get that kill during the cutscene. You can see Onlooker here is one of the furthest away compared to any of the other players during this, so is definitely going to hold on to this charge, get all the way as close as they need to, and just one-shot the boss. One-shots from all the players. Very cool to see. The level of play we've seen in Wrack has, I'm very happy to see, gone as I predicted. When I buckled down and learned this game and got, I think it was the third best time in the season, I was very happy with myself, but I realized like this is because I think no one else has done what I've done yet in terms of buckling down and really trying to learn this game. So I fully expected that a lot of players would eventually get around to doing the same, and I think that's exactly what's happened. My time has fallen further and further every day as players get better and better at Wrack, start to learn how to do these quick kills on the bosses and things. The level of play is rising. Even this late into the season, we're seeing lots of players still getting better at this game.
Yeah, it's never too late to submit PBs, and even like a week before the final qualifying tournament, we are getting new PBs every day, practicing new skips and all, and it shows Sablier's time on out there somewhere was because of that, and Ghostdesk, Sablier, and Leremy are exactly tied on that section here. It's one of the slowest going section because you don't have the plasma rifle yet, the pulsar, and you have to kill those 3 robots with your sword, and that takes a little bit of time. Sablier finishes last actually, and is moving on. The movement overall in the game goes super quickly. You want to strafe at all time, going forward and left or right at the same time to go even faster, in the best Doom or Quake fashion, and killing the enemies as fast as possible. Obviously, the sword is quite slow, but it's still a better DPS than anything else.
Yeah, it is. Being a melee weapon, it of course has pretty limited use in that way. It also just takes up a lot of real estate on the screen, so it can be kind of hard to see your visual cues as you're moving around the environment so quickly, and so I find it a little bit distracting in that way as well. But when it's good, the sword is pretty darn good. The charge attack on the sword also is a little weird. It will shoot out some projectiles all in a vertical line, which is much less useful than it would have been if it was a horizontal line, but you make the best with what you get. Leremy is going to use it here to take out one of these robots after building up a combo with the new pulsar rifle that they found. Does a ton of DPS, though it is a little bit awkward to use because the bullets fall off. They just fall very, very quickly, actually, to the point that you need to aim pretty high up if you want to be hitting something that isn't right in front of you.
Yeah, energy is pretty heavy in Wrack apparently, but Sablier, Ghostdesk, and Leremy are done with the second level here, moving onward to level 3. Pretty much the same exact ID as level 2. You have like 2 buttons to press to open up the final boss. The final boss can be tricky to kill, so maintaining your charge around the end of the level is going to be very important. We have the Turbo Sphere on the way here on Leremy's screen, but they're not going for it. It saves about 15 to 20 seconds if you do execute it perfectly, but it's one of the riskiest jump and kill in the entire speedrun, so you probably the probably not going for it is actually the smart move. Laramie getting stuck a little bit on that spider jump here, but Sablier gets it nice and quickly, and Ghostdeath is not following the same order apparently, so it's going to be tricky to compare their runs.
And spider jumps are quite tricky. The spiders are obviously going to attack you as you approach them, and everything in this game that does damage to you is going to knock you back. And so when you're trying to jump on top of something and it knocks you away, it makes it a lot more difficult to land on top of it. Also, you probably need to jump off of it again pretty quickly because it's also going to try to attack you kind of while you're on top of it. And it's just finicky business trying to get on top of these spiders. They look so small that you feel like you can jump clear over them, but you can really only just barely get on top of them. So you have a very limited window where you're actually high enough in your jump to clear over them. And that is deaths can cost you a whole lot in this game.
Yeah, shooting on those barrels that triggered the chain reaction that actually got Sablier killed here. That was not too far off the checkpoint, but Sablier is going back for it, and yeah, once you die somewhere, you're going to play way safer, and it's going actually to get you killed here. So sadly, yep. Oh, Sablier doing the exact same thing again and getting stuck on that very section. What's happening? Meanwhile, Ghostdeath is actually done with the entire level and enters the boss fight here with a full charge on their sword, allowing them to kill that robot with the sword, but so from afar, which is very useful.
It's very hard to hit with every single projectile on the sword combo, so I don't know if we're even going to see whether or not it goes 720, 75. I think it does mean he hit with each of the projectiles, but it's going to get the most damage out of it. And using the pulsar here is going to enable us to kill Mechron in 2 cycles here. It's going to appear, I thought it was going to appear in the middle there for sure, but did not. So I don't know if we're going to get enough damage in here on this phase. Pretty unlikely, I think. The middle phase lasts a little bit longer, so we are going to get a 3rd cycle here from Ghostdeath, but it's going to have plenty of time to finish off the boss even before the missiles reach. Nice. So very well executed, at least by Ghostdeath.
Keeping a lot of pulsar ammo as well, which is very important. You want to be able to get good ammo management around the entire game, so you'll never get stuck. Having to shoot pistols shots at any boss or any enemy. Sablier did not get their charge going here, so they have to go for the full Mechron fight. You can kill Mechron in exactly 180 pulsar ammo, but it's pretty tricky to do so.
Yeah, it's pretty common to keep firing so that your next couple of projectiles don't quite connect, like we just saw from Sablier there. If you were also paying attention in the bottom left corner of the screen, you might have saw Alnicore get batted into a pit of lava by a spider. It was just one spider, but it was perfectly positioned to block him, so we tried to jump around it, and it just dunked him into the lava. Very, very unfortunate and big setback for Alnicore, which is pretty bad considering they're already the furthest behind. Sablier needs a couple more shots to finish off Mechron with the shotgun. Is getting really aggressive to try to get the extra damage and falls into the lava. Oh, man.
That was actually surprising. I think they overestimated just a little bit the shotgun damage, and that got them killed. You will often see the players actually do go for the kill while jumping into the lava, but it doesn't matter since the boss is already dead. So that was why that jump existed there, but that cost Sablier quite a bit. Ghostdeath missing the one-shot kill on the sub-boss here, but is going to keep on going anyway. It does not cost too much. Oh, and Laramie actually dies on that boss. That's going to cost...
Killed the boss and got the checkpoint, though.
Okay.
Wow. Double KO in Laramie's favor there. I was about to say, yeah, the Pulsar does so much damage, though, that with the Doom Sphere, this boss is going to drop. And then just before the boss died, those rockets came out. It's random whether or not the boss fires rockets or one of the much less damaging attacks. So it really sucks when those rockets do come out. Sucks even more when you die, but it doesn't suck nearly as much when you do get the kill on the boss as well.
Nice movement, though, by Laramie on the... section right after the boss here, getting already to the end of the level. Very nicely done, actually following very closely Ghostdeath now. And meanwhile, Sablier just starts level 4 here. They're going to do exactly the same thing, going for kills and recharges to be able to kill the boss in one hit. But first, they have to go through that section, that brawling section with so many enemies. But at least you have the pulsar refill just before that, so that's pretty cool. You have to kill all those exploding spiders that are on the way, and now you want to kill all those enemies, but the robot is pretty difficult to kill, so you don't want to kill it. But if it's on the way, it might block some enemy spawns, so it's an awkward place, but Sablia does a great job here. He's going to keep their charges with the sword, actually. I guess the sword hits harder, so that's pretty cool, but it blocks so much of the screen. It's awful to navigate with that animation triggered. Meanwhile, Ghostess on the boss here, but Sablier will probably one-shot that boss here?
I have no idea.
Actually, switches...
Gotta switch to the shotgun.
But yeah, the switch to the shotgun ate up their charge, so that did not do anything. That was actually pretty bad, but still got the kill very quickly because the Doom Sphere just kills the guy dead very, very quickly.
Yeah, there's just jumping on a little bit of a corner to get on top of a box to grab that Doom Sphere helps quite a bit. This boss you've just got some pulsar ammo. There's plenty of to refill with in this fight. Lurimi did not actually. Finishing the fight with 10 pulsar might be a bit of an issue later on. Your pulse ammo is your fastest DPS by far, so it's worth its weight in gold in some of these boss fights. They're kind of the longest things that happen because of all the skips that you can do during stages. So you want to try to take care during that fight. It would be a very, very simple fight if all you had to do was shoot all your pulsar ammo. But if you want to pick up the extra pulsar ammo on the outside of the stages, now you need to be moving around while keeping your cursor trained on it, which can be pretty difficult once it starts bouncing around. Important skip here for Ghost Death. Still has 105 health, so is still going to be able to execute on it. It's grabbing a bit extra just to feel a little bit more safe. Boosts with the rocket jump, successfully hits the switch, skipping half the stage.
That's a major skip. Plus, it skips such an annoying section. It's very welcome. Level 6 is pretty long, but it introduces the rocket launcher that allows you to do fun stuff. But still, you have to do a lot to surround the second section, showing how important it was to skip half of the level there.
Taking a bit of care just to kill that one enemy. I'm not sure if he's trying to build a combo or what, but just had it out for that one enemy. Getting hung up a little bit on a couple corners is very common in this game, but it's one of the things you need to take care to avoid once you start really pushing for faster times. Using the rockets to deal a bunch of damage to these enemies on the bridge. Nice. They're probably still alive, but with very low health, so the pulsar is really good at chewing through a lot of these enemies on your way to the switch, taking care not to fall into the lava on the way down, and now it'll clean them up here on the way out. Does get knocked around, but still, this 166 health is going to be plenty to finish out this level here.
That was very, very well executed by Ghost Death. Overall, the movement was super smooth and did not stop at all, and kept on strafing as well. That's very important. It allows you to go about 40% to 45% faster than normal, so you want to be strafing all the time, but it's not so easy to do. Lurimi is still at the in level 6 here, but right at the end, following very closely Ghost Death actually, but overall they're both doing great. Level 7 is going to be super important. You want to keep as much health as you can at the start of the level, because there's a big skip that gets you skipping 2 buttons here. Nicely executed, but you have only 31 HP left, and using heavily the rocket launcher is going to make it a little bit easier. Probably the hardest section in the game upcoming here with that bridge. 5 robot spawns on it, and you have to kill all of them in order to keep on going.
You do have an opportunity to build up a combo and launch a charged bazooka shot here. Very nicely done by Ghost Death. It is so easy to kill yourself with that charged shot because you took so much damage from the rockets, and also the radius on that charged rocket is huge. It's why you saw him fire it so deep into those line of robots, and you saw them, even the front one took a whole bunch of damage from it. So very, very precise to not die as well as build that combo and then hit that shot with the combo. So Very, very well done by Ghost Death. Is trying to build up another combo here to do a bunch of damage on Oculus as soon as the fight starts. You have a moment to fire off a combo or something at it at the very top of the screen. So he's aiming up. He fires a little.
Nice.
Wait, that might have hit, actually.
Yeah,
that might have done a whole bunch of damage.
That did hit, and that's very important. Deals 1,500 damage, and that's a lot. One rocket is just 400. And it's a long fight, so anything you can save is going to save you a lot of time. Plus, it's RNG, it's going to shoot at you rockets from the side. You just have to crouch to be completely immune from those. Something that I didn't know in my first playthrough, and I actually spent about 10 minutes in the boss.
Yeah, this is actually a much more difficult fight if you can't dodge the rockets for free. I also did not know the first time I played. Taker clued me in afterwards as he was watching along. I'm sure, tittering away behind a hand covered in front of his mouth. Silly. Yeah, that's just, it's so, you wouldn't think to do it really, especially if you're coming from a game like Doom, which is what I come from. So no crouching, or well, like some games do let you crouch, but the base game does not. So it's generally discouraged crouching, even if there are some things that are easily avoided by crouching under. But fair game here in this run, so Ghost Death is going to be using it for sure. Using some pulsar rifle ammo here. If you want to go as fast as possible, you want to try to work in, take some damage from one of those missiles, not crouching fast enough. You want to work in a rocket shot at the end of your pulse ammo. It's pretty quick to switch to and shoot a rocket. It's the delay afterwards that makes the rocket launcher so slow. So sort of getting the front-loaded damage from a rocket at the end of your pulsar chain gives you the most damage per phase here. I think that's what we saw during the stream hiccup there, so very well done by Ghost Death, the first player to move on to the final stage.
Sevilla is going through the entire level 7 here, not skipping the 2 buttons. Meanwhile, Remy is onto the boss fight, having a difficult time with only 46 HP remaining. They cannot take a single hit, I think, or just maybe one. So they do have to be careful with those rockets, but if they do remember to crouch in time, they should be fine. The boss is going to do one of 4 attacks each time, but the 2 attacks you want is either the laser firing from actually their eye, or the slow pass from one side to another. And that's going to allow you to shoot at them, because that's going very quickly through the actual entire level by warping or glitching through walls. You can actually go directly to the boss fight, and that saves probably about 5 minutes.
It is a really big save. If you want to go as fast as possible, you might detour into the level to pick up a Doom Sphere and then run all the way back. Oh, too close to the boss with the rocket launcher. That's one of the reasons why I prefer to use the pulse ammo before I switch to rockets. Ghost Death is going to lose a fair chunk of time there, but is currently actually is only a little bit ahead of Lermy, who is now finished. Oculus is going to be joining Ghost Death in the final stage. But yeah, Ghost Death still enjoying a lead over those players. Many others, though, who are not competing on stream are still competing and are going to be uploading their times, and Ghost Death is very much worried about picking up as many points on them as he can in this game. One of his biggest advantages, 3rd place on the leaderboard in this game.
Oh wow, Lilia is already done with an in-game time of 14 minutes and 30 seconds. So Ghost Death is looking about around those time, maybe 16 minutes if it goes, if it's still ongoing. But it's so difficult. Lilia apparently saying that they went from for the Doom Sphere on level 8 and did not quite get it, sadly. So that the Doom Sphere can save up about a minute if done correctly, so that's a lot of time in just one chunk. But the trick to get it is insanely hard. You have to jump on 3 enemies, chaining those jumps perfectly to be able to come back from it. So it's something we're not going to see so much, but because this is going to destroy Galactron before the Remy here apparently.
Galactron will make itself immune to anything but the sword whenever it sort of crosses its arms and gets a bit of a red glow around it, which can be a little bit hard to see sometimes. But Ghost Death does get the final hit, finishing the boss. We'll see what the in-game time is in a little bit. But yeah, the sword is really good DPS against this boss. But you would probably rather not be so close because it can be very hard to deal with some of the patterns. We're going to see some pulse rifle ammo here. Still a 60 pulse ammo, so you want to try to use this whenever you get the opportunity. The biggest opportunity is when the boss decides to spin with its arms out. You cannot stay close, or you will take a whole lot of damage very quickly. So once you back up, that's generally a good time to switch to one of your other sources of damage, and then back to the sword as necessary.
So 15:37 for Ghost Death, very good time, Sedlier and Loremi onto the final boss fight. Meanwhile, Olneker is just starting level 6, dropped down quite a bit. Their PB is at 22 minutes though, so that's still about on pace. Have to be careful with that charge rocket though, and Loremi is done.
Was a little bit off target after the rocket jump. You want to hit that switch as fast as possible because there are enemies up there, and chances are you're at like 5 or 10 health or something. I have died before hitting the switch because an enemy shot me in the back, so you want to minimize the time you spend floating in the air and hit that switch as fast as possible. Thankfully, Olneker did not get caught there, so is successfully skipped that part of the stage. I can't tell what Sablier's pulse ammo is. Yeah, I think that was a 0, so he's going to have to finish off with the sword. Unfortunately, gets the spinning pattern here. Could have switched to the rocket launcher maybe, but did decide to wait it out, go in with the sword, get the final hits. 21:35 real time will translate to, I'm not sure what in-game time, but we're going to see 15:37 from Ghost Death, a fantastic time. And Lurami with a 16:45 is also incredibly solid.
Oh, Olneker getting caught by all the enemies here and dying. One of the most costly deaths. Level 7 has a very long section, and level 6, my bad. And here it can be very costly, dying on the way to the second button here, the end of the second section. Sablier is falling short of 200 points, finishing at 17:15. I'm not sure. I think 200 might be 18 minutes actually. I don't remember exactly, but we're going to see if they can make it. Still on top 3. It's going to be pretty difficult with that Lilia and Ghost Death times. Not sure how well Devil Tifa has done as well. They were in first place before the game, so we'll see.
Devil Tifa's 11th place with a 15:18 for a PB. Wrack is a pretty hard game to match your PB just due to all the different ways that you can mess up on some of these skips. It's very rare that all of them go your way so smoothly, and I would not be surprised if Devil Tifa was closer to the 16-minute mark. But we'll have to see. This is a game where we saw a couple deaths here from Olneker that were so costly, and that can happen to even really strong players, especially if they're trying to be really aggressive. Actually seeing the pulse combo there, let's see, how are we going to get out of this one? Because that teleporter is going to put you right into that mess of people. So unfortunately, a really big time loss there for Olneker.
I'm keeping an eye on the leaderboard, and with the players finishing. Do remember that we were 12 runners in that fun tournament. Good practice for next week, to be honest, for a lot of those players, or just overall fun to join in some races. But I'm super pleased because for the live finals we have a very tight schedule, and I was a bit worried that the players would not be able to finish all 10 games on time, but the pace has quite improved since the first chance tournament that was 3 weeks ago, and the time we had was 4 hours and a half to beat all 10 games. But for the last chance tournament it might as well be 4 hours, I think, and a lot of the players will be able to finish. So everybody has... Oh no, Olneker being too aggressive with their movement here. If you do pick up that bounce pad, you have to stay very still for a longer time if you're not going, or if you're going to fall back down to those lasers that instantly kill you.
Yeah, I think the players have... I'm always so impressed with what players are able to do in such a short amount of time over the course of the Ultimate Decathlon, but I'm used to seeing things kind of level out a little bit, but certainly that has happened at least a little bit, but people have still been getting better in so many different games. It is always Very cool to see, and still impresses me to this very day. Pulsar rifle out to clear the way from some of these troublesome enemies. Getting blown up by that spider there. Big health increase is going to be pretty important, taking care to line up that rocket shot, and this time not bonking their head. And their health looks so much better here. Pulse rifle is going to do a really good job of getting rid of all of these enemies. You could avoid them entirely, do some pretty risky jumps out across the bridge and then curl back around, but there's so many ways it can go wrong that even the fastest runs of this game will just kill some of those enemies, using the spider to get around and behind some of these guys to hit the switch. And now, even if Onlooker dies, it does have that checkpoint now, but hopefully that's not a problem. Down to 56, explosive spider waiting outside the door, down to 31 now. 21, the rail gunners are lurking all over the place. The health is going to get up a little bit here. I think we're going to be okay. Oh.
That's scary. Alright, the 100 armor points are going to help for sure, but sadly, starting level 7 with so little health is going to be pretty tricky to deal with. The level start with the robot and a bunch of explosive spiders. A well-placed rocket can kill everything in one go, but it's not so easy to do. We'll see how Onlooker tackles that.
I like to just not strafe run down this hallway. Okay, gonna kill himself for the 100 health refill. Continue. I don't think I've ever seen the continue screen before. That was a new one for me, but with the arcade style countdown and everything. Yeah, if you just maintain your dead straight aim down the hallway and fire a rocket, that will clear out most of the enemies. It does come at the cost of not being able to turn diagonally and strafe run down the hallway, but the extra consistency on that opening is worth it to me, just because it is so tricky to deal with all of those spiders and the explosive variety in particular. Doing the bounces off the jump pads here, using a combo to clear the way to this button, and has an opportunity to kill themselves to refill their health, but their health was fine, so they just kept going.
Yeah, keeping on moving quickly through those two sections, that's going to allow them to move on pretty soon. Usually the players are going to kill themselves after the second section here, not only for health, but because it resets the positioning of all those enemies. So if you die, it's not too bad anyways. But Onlooker actually managed successfully, gets there, and after that gets pot shot by the enemy and dies. So everybody is going to reset at the starting point, and it's going to be way easier to reach out the bridge here. Once again, I hate that part. It's so hard to do correctly, but with the correctly placed rockets, you're going to build up the combo, allowing you to kill some enemies, but that's going to be tricky.
What are we doing?
What are
Where
we doing?
Going? Oh my goodness. All right, well, as long as you kill the robots, then this is going to be fine. Taking out those enemies there. The rocket launcher is not going to be the good weapon to use for much longer. It's actually retreating fully to the other side of the stage. I mean, the goal is to kill the robots. It doesn't matter where you do it from. This is just a little more consistent. They have all the time in the world to kill these robots, rather than being boxed in a corner. This is much safer. It did require a very risky escape, but just use the sword, man. Oh my goodness, 33 health. So many
are going to get you killed.
Oh man!
I swear there was that one rocket on the spider, just like 20 seconds earlier. That I don't know. There was a pixel away.
All right.
From
need to kill. I think more spiders. It's not just the robots. It's all the enemies that spawn in here. So somewhere there's an enemy. Okay, these guys got stuck on the other side. They will do some ground pound attacks if you are too far away from them. That's why the sword is so good, because you bait out the melee attacks. Does get the checkpoint, and we can finally restart.
Okay,
oh my goodness. Okay, well, the not killing yourself after getting the checkpoint is a good reason for avoiding the mess outside of that door. So you can see they're much more nice facing around the other direction.
No ammo remaining to kill the Oculus here. Oh, and misses the rocket shot. It's going to be tricky to go fast through that fight. There are rockets scattered around the arena, but it's just 2 rockets at one time, so it's I don't know.
Just throwing ammo away here too. Those are important rockets. 10,000 health is going to be what? You've got 10, 20, 25 rockets you need to fire into Oculus, and there is only 16 in this available, so there's just enough, having wasted 1 here. No, sorry, that's still 9 short. I forgot, 25, not 15. This is why I don't do math on stream. There's too many ways it can go wrong. Basically, this is going to be a long fight.
Yep, because after that we are just going to look at the pistol to deal maximum DPS, and it's 10 health per ammunition, so it's going to be tricky. But Onlooker does a great job at collecting all those rockets, and you know, it shows how hard the game actually is if you don't know exactly what you're doing, and if you don't execute on those things perfectly, everything can go wrong so quickly. It's actually insane to see those speedruns by just what we've seen from Ghost Death, Sablier, and Loremi. Onlooker dies. How many? We have no ammo, so yeah, it's going to be a long one.
They were looking around the edges of the room for more rockets in despair as they realized they had indeed picked them all up and the boss was only half dead. And in their search, they found themselves vulnerable right in the middle of this stage to those rockets that were coming out from the side. So they understand a little bit more now about what kind of situation they're in, I think, in terms of ammo. So they're going to be a lot less willing to waste any of their rockets. And even then, they're going to have to do a lot of work with either the pistol or the shotgun. Neither very good options, but you got to do something. The boss is way up there. You can't really get in there with your sword. Well, you could rocket jump up to the door, but I don't think that's going to be a good way.
You cannot, by the way, get a rocket jump and get stuck on that tiny room with Oculus. There's an invisible wall preventing you to do that. But that would be so cool to have any way and any control of it to actually get that fight done a little bit faster. Onlooker get themselves in a very tough spot now, just having a few rockets left. That's about 2,000 health, 1,600 actually. So I don't know what's going to happen next.
I'm guessing the shotgun's better than the pistol, but it's going to be close between the two, and neither of them is going to be where you want it to be, really, in this fight. Doesn't help they're also getting horrible RNG, multiple rockets here before the boss is becoming vulnerable again. This has just not been a great section here for Onlooker. Getting hit as well, down to 76 health. Normally, you're not too worried about taking damage in this fight. I mean, certainly the rockets will do a lot of damage, but you duck under those, that's fine. But the boss will try to shoot you a little bit on these phases here. And, you know, if you get hit a couple times, normally it's not so bad, but this fight is going to go on a while, so these little bits of chip damage you're taking, these are going to add up, and this 46 is going to start to feel like not a lot as this fight goes on.
This is so slow. The weapons are so bad in the game. Like, if you did not get into the boss fight with the correct ammo and the amount you need, everything feels so bad. Like, the shotgun here is actually doing worse than the pistol, because the scattering of the shots actually gets the wall damage more than the boss, I think.
Yeah, this was, I think that was like 120 damage per shot. I think the shotgun caps at 135. So actually, maybe this is most of the shotgun damage happening here. Looked like 115. So not too bad. The pistol, I think, would be a little bit better, but not much better. So the choice of using the shotgun here is, it's not like it's really shooting them in the foot. It was really just that ammo management used way too much on the robots, especially when the sword is such a good option against the robots. So when I was talking earlier about players always are taking care to keep their pulsar ammo up, it's because of this reason. These bosses just have a lot of health, and the pulsar is just so much more DPS than the other weapons.
Alright, the final section should be way easier because you have ammo refills, plus you just keep through the entire level, so we should be cool. Because there's no ammo left in the arena. There's nothing to be done there. It's the full stuff have been picked up and used, and it's awful. So now
on to the final stage. Thankfully the sword is a really good option against the final boss, so even though you do get to pick up some ammo before the boss, most of it you don't quite. You're not really going to get much use out of. The pulsar and rockets, I think, are maybe better DPM. I'm not sure about rockets, but pulsar is a little bit better than sword. And of course, you want something to do whenever the boss is spinning. So you definitely want some of one or the other, or both. And going to be taking care to get some extra health here, because this skip is not so easy. I don't fully understand how to make it consistent. I just angle myself and then tap forwards and right at the same time. I just hit it. Until it goes in. I don't know. Some players have managed to get much more consistent. This was pretty good, actually, by Alnicore. Is going to be grabbing the 200 armor here and going to try to get a little bit more than 200, but not quite. Going to be able to get over picking up those extra bits. Is not going to shoot the rocket at the start for the extra damage, but is well positioned here in terms of health and ammo to have a go with this boss.
Yeah, if you don't shoot yourself in the knee with a rocket, you should be able to kill the boss nicely. Just the sword actually goes pretty fast. Alnicore does just gather everything they had left in the arena here. And yeah, the sword deals a great chunk of damage if you do remember to jump on time and just ignore almost everything but that spinning attack, using the nice reaction here by Alnicore. And moving onward, the boss fight should not take too long, so it's all fine and dandy for them. Yeah,
it does feel like it goes on for too long, though, when you're actually in there and you're on like a good pace and you're watching the time tick away as you slowly swing this sword away. But this really is this fight is going well. Alnicore taking a hit there. You want to jump whenever the boss slams the ground like that. It's pretty hard to tell when players are doing it, just because your camera shakes whenever you swing the sword, so it's not so easy to tell that someone is jumping. Getting hit once on the spinning attack is pretty common, very hard to react in time to avoid damage entirely, so pretty wise to pick up that extra health, because this boss still has 6,000 health, and you can get chipped away pretty easily.
$57 and 133 or more. Alnicore should be fine. It's always to, like, if you don't have any pulsar ammo left, and if you switch and it gives you the rocket launcher instead, and you shoot yourself and you blow yourself up. Sadly, that has happened, but four hits remains. Just the 140 health should be enough, and nicely done by Alnicore, finishing the game. It's a tough one. It's not so easy, and if you there's like the nice curve of learning and practicing and skill involved, and just passing that 18-minute mark will assure you some of the better times. And if you are a little bit on the lower end, you might end up having a lot of troubles like Alnicore did today. So finishing with a 31:54 in-game time, Alnicore finishes probably at around, 100 points. Elgering finishing in 31:33 got 109.
Sablier is 1 point away from getting their first silver star, edged out by Le Remy, picking up 30 seconds in Wrack. The fastest time in Wrack by far went to Lilia, who is second place overall on the leaderboards. One of very few people in the world to get underneath 15 minutes. Well, no, I take it back. A number of players have actually gotten just under. Sagitus got their 14:59. Fireman has got a 14:46. Steph, Lujant, Molleman all managing as well. But certainly in a race, we have not seen times like this much at all. It's basically just Taker. I think this is probably the second fastest time in the UD race-wise. So it is a fantastic job here by Lilia, almost catching Devil Tifa, actually, who seemed to be, too far ahead for anyone to contest for the gold, just 3 points back.
Yeah, the second fastest race time before that was Sugitos with a 14:59. So very, very well done by Lilia. All the work they've put towards Wrack did pay off. And yeah, sadly, Sablier choking just before the getting into top 3. Kirby got them just a little bit, 42 seconds behind Le Remy. Very good Minit, very good out there somewhere, and 30 seconds behind in Wrack. That's how the game goes, I guess. Overall, UD is about speedrunning all 10 games in a row, so sometimes that's how it goes, and it should be easier for them next week, considering Devil Tiffin, Lilia, KTH, Mollyman, Jant are not in there because they're already qualified, but I'm not sure. I do hope Stifler does a great job. They're currently in second place, so we are going to see their runs on next Thursday. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Europe, and so that's 2 p.m. Eastern time. That's 11 a.m. Pacific time, I think. So it's time zones are always great, but you have the exclamation mark schedule to find us, and you also will find there a lot of cool stuff happening this afternoon.
Absolutely. Speed Gaming has so much content, especially on the weekends. I can see we're at least going to Speed Gaming 5 for most of the day, so you will have your choice between 5 different things to watch all day long. The A Link to the Past Randomizer Spoiler Log Tournament is happening on both Speed Gaming 3 and 4 in just about 14 minutes, so if you're looking for something to watch right after this, that's a pretty good candidate. The Super Metroid Prodigy Tournament, featuring players with PBs below 50 minutes, or above 50 minutes rather, is currently in progress. You might be able to catch the end of it on Speed Gaming 2. That's also going to be happening later today, as well as Super Metroid and A Link to the Past Combo Randomizer, Ori and the Blind Forest, the championship happening at 3 p.m. in just about 3 hours on the main channel. Definitely encourage you guys to check that one out. Zelda 1 Randomizer, Super Metroid Randomizer without the combo with A Link to the Past, new Super Mario Brothers Wii. There's a tournament going on for that. Zelda 1 Randomizer happening. Lots and lots of stuff happening all day. As well as tomorrow, you can find our cool thing that we had to put off, unfortunately, the Mega Man. It's on the schedule as the Lots of Robot Masters challenge, the category, I suppose. Really, really unique category.
Yeah, have you seen the rules? It has been disclaimed for all the players to prepare a little bit, so it's pretty cool. But I don't want to spoil it if you've haven't read that yet.
I did.
Oh, you did. Okay, so it's going to be races with elimination at the end of each races. We're going to play Mega Man 1 through 3, and each player have to choose one Robot Master from each game, and then we're going to move on to Mega Man 4 through 6, and then looping back to Mega Man 1 through 3, 2 through 3, and rinse and repeat until we have like one final survivor. And you have to decide what Robot Master you go for, since it's if you burn all your best bets right off the go, you're going to have a lot of troubles to survive through the later turns. But if you do go for the hardest one at the start, it's going to be very hard to not be eliminated. So you have to decide what you're doing, and it's going to be pretty fun to see the routes and the decision from all the players. So, I don't know. Still, don't go for Iceman first. I don't think that would be a good idea. But all the players are going to play through 3 different bosses at least from each game, so you do have to go for maybe Cutman, Gutsman, but you do have to pick an extra one on Mega Man 1. That's going to be difficult. On Mega Man 2, a lot of players know a lot of Robot Masters, so that's not going to be too big of trouble. But Mega Man 3, do you go for Needleman, which is super difficult but also pretty fast? I don't know.
Magnet, I'm sure, will make many appearances as a second or third option, but after that, I don't know. Needle is very tough. Gemini used to be a first Robot Master that you would do, but it's an incredibly long stage, so I don't think that's gonna. Yeah, but then Mega Man 4, everyone does Pharaoh, and we've seen maybe Toad, right? But like Pharaoh is so common in 4, so I think that's where we'll see players really get caught. Not being prepared, perhaps. Maybe some players will specifically go out and learn extra stages just to play well in this event, because if they don't, there's a chance that we could see the top players at the end playing stages they've never played before, or maybe played once. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. I really like the element of strategy to it, and I love Mega Man, so super looking forward to that. Tomorrow is the next time you can find us at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
Have a good one, everybody, and see you then.